Hi, my name is Guy Training and I'm a professor at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
And I'm Kimberly Ingram-Beck from Gretna Public Schools.
And this is CS4NE. And today we have a treat for you because we've got Paul Clark, an interview with a retired elementary teacher, instructor at UNO, University of Nebraska-Omaha. If you don't know, you should. What else can you tell me about him before we get to the interview?
Paul Clark has done a whole lot of physical computing things. He loves to tinker. And so it just kind of fascinates me, the kind of things that he does in his classroom and with his students, even in an elementary age. So, yeah.
All right. So let's go to the interview.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about your experience with computer science.
Well, I was a teacher for about over 40 years. And the first year I started teaching, we got an Apple II Plus computer, and I knew this was going to change education. When I could type in, the man rode the donkey, and a picture of a donkey riding across the screen went on. And I said, the donkey rode the man. Then the donkey rode the man across the stage. I go, this has got something going for it. And so I just started from there. I was a classroom teacher, and that was in Fremont. And we had one computer that we could share among 12 schools. And so after that, I knew that that's where I needed to go. And so I did everything I could to do that. And so after that, I left Fremont. I went to Elkhorn, and I worked with technology there and the Apple IIs, GSs. We were really high-tech computers. And I finally worked my way into the technology coordinator for Gretna, and I loved it all the way around. And so when I left there, I went to UNO, and I taught there for a few years. And finally, I retired from UNO, and I came to Gretna, where I finished my favorite job ever, which was elementary technology. So it's been a great ride. At first, it was all computers, and then as new technologies came in, then we were able to integrate other technologies into that. And so right now, I've been retired for 3 years, so I feel like I'm a dinosaur. So.
Awesome. So what first inspired you to bring robotics and coding to an elementary classroom?
Well, I have to say, I've always been enamored with robotics. Always, always. In fact, in 1966, I got Lego kit number 1, which was called Gears. And I also got robotics kit Lego kit number 2, which was batteries and wires. And I started putting stuff together. And so I've always loved Legos and doing that kind of stuff. And then a friend of mine who recently passed away, Denny Handley, when he was teaching, and I was first teaching too, he had this program he created called Legos on Mars. And we worked with that program, and he had cameras and kids building Legos, but they all had wires attached to them. And so I've always been loving robotics, and whenever I could find anything like that to put into the classroom, I could. And as new robotics kits came out, one of my jobs at UNO was to develop the SceneBot, which was one of the first robots and ran with a remote wireless. And those kind of became outdated, and I inherited a bunch of those. And from there, when I had them in Gretna at Aspen Creek Elementary School, I found out that we could tear them apart. And we had a 3D printer at the time, and the kids could design a body for it. And then we could use hot glue and duct tape and wires and get the motors to work with that. And the kids could design their own robots. And
Nice.
They had a Gretna robot, which was Gretna Dragon. They 3D printed it. And they had a football player that would throw the football, and so there's all kinds of crazy fun things. And I actually used him in the state robotics competition, so it was great. So I've always liked that.
Nice. So where did you find your curriculum for your classes?
Well, I've always had some really, really good friends, your dad being one of them, Jeff Ingram, and like I mentioned, Denny Handley, and we would get together and talk about stuff. And when we would see stuff that was really cool, we would just say, oh, we can use that. I know how I can use that, or I know how I can use this, And so word of mouth and being around other people that were as nerdy as I was kind of really helped with that curriculum. And the other thing I tried to do was anything we did with technology, it had to be something that was going to be creative and innovative, and that the other teachers would say, I can use this in my curriculum too. So what I did was my job was a technology teacher, but whatever I did, the teachers could use because there's so many other things I could bring into my classroom.
That's awesome. So what changes do you see in your students' problem solving or creativity because of the experiences that you gave them with the robotics and microbit activities?
Well, my daughter used to complain about science. I was a STEM teacher too, that it was all directional, this, worksheets that. And I was very anti-worksheet. And so I noticed right away that if we were coding a little video game or we were putting some little servos together, that as soon as they figured out that they could make this thing move, then I just kind of had to step aside. The hardest thing for me to do is just step aside and get out of the way. And I love to hear, oh, cool, it does this. Or I would have kids explain what was going on, and I'd have little videos of these clips, and they'd be explaining how things to go, and they'd say, now it's going to go forward, and went backward. You'd hear the kids go, oh, crap. And then he would jump right in and grab that and start moving around. And one kid told me one time, I said, I love coming in here because it makes me feel smart.
Aww.
And I thought, wow. What a nice thing for a kid to say. He loves coming in here. He struggled with other things, but he loved coming in because it made him feel smart. I thought, wow, that's the best compliment a teacher can get.
Absolutely.
So.
Wow. So any advice that you would give current teachers who maybe want to try and innovate with emerging technologies in the classroom?
Well, yes. Have fun. Look around you and see what's going on, and try to tie what you're doing to current events. One of the things that when we first got our 3D printers, I thought, gosh, what am I going to have the kids do? And it happened to be an Olympic year. So one thing I had them do is use Tinkercad, and I had them design their own gold medal. And so they, would put stuff on their medal, and then we would print it, and they would have it in their hands. Another year, it was a year that they retired the thimble from Monopoly. So I said to the kids, okay, the thimble's gone. Your job is to take the Tinkercad Pro software and you're going to design a new token for Monopoly. And they just really got into that, and that one took on a life of its own because they said, could we make a game too? So we had all of these cardboard games with their tokens that they had printed out around the room, and just, have fun. Have fun. Think about when you were a kid. I mean, for me, one of the easiest things to do is think about when I was a kid, because I don't think I ever really, truly grew up. So I still have moments when I'm looking at something and I go, oh, I could use that with fifth graders. So anyway, that's a little bit about me.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
All right. So what struck you out of this interview?
Well, I've known Paul Clark for a long time. So just never growing up, absolutely is Paul. He's never grown up, and I love that. But also keeping your inner child going, I like that. And I think it helps teachers can
And that really connects, well, to me, with the things I really like about the interview. And that is that idea of wonder and really learning with the kids, not teaching the kids, but it's like we are actually learning almost side by side, or I figure out things and then we do them together and then we'll figure them better as we go along. That's fantastic. And the connection to the world, that's something I usually call teaching the world. Kids may be interested in programming and robotics and all of that, or they may be less interested. So you've got to find multiple avenues to bring them into it. So using the Olympics or using something that's happening in the world, that's a way to bring it in and make it come alive and make it worthwhile. Because we do know some kids just love the computing side of things. So for some kids, it's almost a side thing.
Right.
We want them to learn it, but there's got to be an in, and that's finding an in. And so with that, keep on tinkering.
Yeah.